This week's episode of Friday Night SmackDown featured a little bit of the good, a little bit of the bad, a little bit of the filler, and a little bit of the bloodline. We're going to break it all down, emoji by emoji, segment by segment. You're watching Allison Analysis. First off, the stage looked phenomenal. It can take my money. I mean, this arena, stadium, whatever it is in Saudi Arabia, it looks great. And the staging, it wasn't like, too overcomplicated, but it looked sick. It felt big time. And I mean, I'd kill for SmackDown to look this good week in and week out, because it was just immaculate. But now onto the in-ring action. Bianca Belair, Nia Jax, Queen of the Ring, semi-final. I mean, this match, it had some sloppy moments. Specifically, Nia Jax going into the turnbuckle and then falling out the ring. It was slow. It didn't look that great. But it did tell a good story. It told the story about, Bianca Belair's injury and Nia Jax working on it. It made Nia Jax look like a real force in the women's division. So ultimately, I'll give it a thumbs up. But here's the issue. Bianca Belair lost. And last week, I complained about Jade Cargill losing, and everybody said to me, hey, long-term storytelling. Jade's going to accidentally cost Bianca Belair because she's annoyed at Nia, or something like that. But did it happen? No. Jade Cargill lost her undefeated streak for no reason. Her and Bianca didn't need to be in this tournament. The men's tag team champions weren't in it, so why are the women's? It makes no sense to me. One bit. I mean, seriously, it didn't make sense to me last week. It makes less sense to me now. But hey, the match was fine. It was good. But what I am going to have to give a little bit of a subtle round of applause to, well, that is Bianca Belair's strength. I mean, for her to be able to lift up Nia Jax like that was insane. And not once, but twice as well. I mean, Bianca Belair, her strength is just insane. We all know she's strong, but every time we see it, it still shocks us. I mean, the EST of WWE, I mean, she always deserves a round of applause from me. After the match, Nia Jax's promo was not bad by any means, but it also was a little bit cringe. It wasn't great, and Nia's improved so much on the mic as of late, but this was a little bit of a step backwards. Not bad, just I didn't care for it. But what was bad was Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell confronting Bianca Belair backstage. Their acting was atrocious. Absolutely horrible. And I'm a big fan of Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, right? I'm not trying to go at them. But, I mean, it was probably poorly written too, but this segment, I was just cringing in it. They walk in, they're making fun of an injured Bianca Belair. Like, come on, guys. Like, and she's a tag team champion too, so she's going to back up in Jade Cargill. It was just poorly written. That's the way around it, really. So I'm not even going to have a go at the performance of Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell because they were given bad material to work with. Next up, we had the Grayson Waller effect with, of course, his co-host, Austin Theory, and they were going to introduce LA Knight, but instead, Carmelo Hayes came out. The three of them had a bit of a heelish laugh, and I kind of thought to myself, where is this going? It's a little bit awkward. The crowd aren't super into it. Until LA Knight came out. And I know I joke about LA Knight's age, but there's no denying this guy is over. He is so over. The pop he had was insane. And I don't want to say he saved this segment, because it wasn't like it was a bad one. It was just a kind of, I don't care for it. But as soon as he came out, this became a good segment. So overall, I'll say it was decent. But I mean, a big shout out has to go to LA Knight for this. We then saw what I thought was a great promo package, hyping up Blair Davenport. Thumbs up from me. But the question is, when will she actually debut? Like, I mean, we've seen teasers for a few weeks now. I mean, hopefully soon. But I don't mind the fact they are doing a bit of a build-up. But I just hope that they do have plans once she debuts. If they do, then that's brilliant. But yeah, great delivered promo package here. And I'm excited to see her on Friday nights. We then headed back to the ring to see the Street Profits come out and to help LA Knight face Carmelo Hayes and A-Town Down Under. This match was nothing special, but it was a bit of fun, and it also made the previous segment make a little bit more sense. But it really was, quite filler. But it was good filler. It wasn't bad by any means. A thumbs up from me, but nothing to go out of your way to see. However, whatever positive stuff I just said about that match, well, I'm now going to have to get my trash can out because I'm going to need to put it in the trash because the Street Profits were doing Ronaldo celebrations after the match, right? I mean, what? Like, what is just, it's cringe. I mean, it absolutely is cringe. I don't want to see a Man United player, an ex-Man United player reference on WWE television. I don't want to see that. If you're going to reference a player, reference an Arsenal player. Because, yeah, I mean, that's what you should do. It's an absolute disgrace. I mean, Street Profits are associating themselves with Man United, which explains why they're okay with mediocrity. Up next, we saw Cody Rhodes come out, and the Saudi Arabian crowd loved him. I'm going to need to give them a subtle round of applause for singing along every word to his theme song. An awesome entrance, but then out came Logan Paul. And basically, Logan Paul's entire thing was he gave his brass knuckles to Michael Cole on commentary during the kickoff press conference, whatever they want to call it. The kickoff used to be like the kickoff show. Now the kickoff is the day before, and then the countdown is it's all a bit confusing. There's too many references. But what I will say is, this segment, it did its job. Logan Paul was hiding an extra pair of brass knuckles, all of that. It was a little bit awkward at times, but Cody Rhodes came back and, insulted Logan Paul with quite a few insults about him being an influencer, and it did its job, right? I'm excited to see the match tomorrow. The crowd enjoyed it, so ultimately I'll get a thumbs up from me, but, it wasn't out of this world. Again, it's a bit of a common theme with a lot on this episode, right? There's bits of good, there's bits of filler, and then there's bits of slightly bad. Nothing's really extreme either way. Like, this is such a skippable show up to this point. Minus, I guess, the results of the Queen and the King of the Ring matches. We then had a Randy Orton backstage promo hyping up his match against Tama Tonga later in the night, and this deserves my applause. Anytime Randy Orton cuts a backstage promo, this guy on the mic, it's not surprising at this point, but he is just insanely good at it. Insanely good. But talking about good promos, we had DIY confront the Street Profits. The Street Profits thought that after that win, they were the new #1 contenders for A-Town Down Under. But DIY, well, they have other thoughts. And Ciampa, well, Ciampa went in on them. It was like a little bit of a heel Ciampa promo, in fact. But it was brilliant. And hey, we're finally getting some competition in the SmackDown Tag Division. And I'm really happy about that. Because since Mania, well, it's kind of been non-existent. Up next, we had Bayley versus Chelsea Green. Of course, this happened after their match, well, not match, their segment last week. I mean, this match was fine. It was decent. Nothing special. Did its job. But the post-match segment was what was, really interesting. Because Pippa Niven, well, she just took out Bayley. And of course, Chelsea Green was, just one of those, smaller bosses on your way to the big boss. Pippa Niven, Bayley, give me this feud. I'm really excited for it. And Pippa Niven looked like, a star when she took out Bayley. They did it really well. A thumbs up from me about that. In what was probably the segment of the night on SmackDown, AJ Styles went into Nick Aldis's office. And on this episode, there was quite a lot of bad acting. But in this segment, the acting was phenomenal. I guess, pun intended, because Nick Aldis, he genuinely had compassion in his voice. AJ Styles had desperation in his voice. We've heard from AJ Styles now for months about, how he's worried about his age, he's getting on, he needs to take his opportunities, and he's realizing they're slipping through his fingertips. And I know he said he wants to be the next big heel, but hey, this might get him over as the next big babyface. I'm excited to see, what happens next in this storyline. And I said last week, I don't know why they waited a week to do this Styles Aldis thing. I now know. It builded, a little bit of intensity for it. And these two, they knocked it out the park with this segment. Great performances. And I'm really, to be honest with you, I'm more interested in AJ Styles than I've been in a very long time. And that's awesome. Or should I say phenomenal? I'll throw another pun in. My thumbs are then going up because we had an Andrade promo package, and I thought this was really good. And Legado, well, they're interested in, perhaps a partnership with him. I think that's going to be the first feud for Andrade on SmackDown, and I'm all for that. I'm just glad, they've got a plan for him, because I'm not going to lie, I was a little worried. I said AJ Styles and Nick Aldis might have had the segment of the night. They probably did have the best segment, but the best, just little moment was Paul Heyman explaining to Solo Sikoa that, hey, Tonga Loa, he isn't here today. Why isn't he here today? Well, he's not here today because he couldn't get in the country, because he's that dangerous. He's got a bad record. In reality, I mean, based on the fact that he could travel to France, it's probably just now he's got some visa issues or something because he's moving to America or something like that. Maybe he couldn't make it for other reasons. But the fact that they covered this up so well, and the fear in Paul Heyman's voice as well when he was talking about it, it was just so well done. Because a lot of times when, you know, some stars can't go to these international shows, WWE just don't explain it. And at times it makes sense to just not explain it. But the way they did it here with Tonga Loa, it was brilliant. In fact, Paul Heyman, you can take my money. Paul Heyman, right, I said this for months, but Paul Heyman has taken this Bloodline storyline to another level. And as soon as Roman Reigns leaves, guess what? Paul Heyman is keeping the Bloodline storyline alive with all these new members that Solo Sikoa is bringing in. I really don't think this would have worked. This new Bloodline would have worked as well as it is working if it wasn't for Paul Heyman. This guy, he's like the secret sauce to it all. And, I mean, seriously, we need to put respect on this guy's name. He's now a Hall of Famer, and he deserves to be almost more than anybody else. It's taken me this long into the video to realize I've got the King of the Ring background behind me ready for tomorrow instead of the SmackDown background. In case you couldn't tell, I just filmed some predictions for King and Queen of the Ring. But, I mean, listen, ultimately, we've got to the main event now of Friday Night SmackDown. Randy Orton, Tama Tonga, the King of the Ring semi-finals. And Randy Orton, this man, he can work just such a simple match and get the crowd so invested. I'm not going to sound like some old-timer here and be like, oh, all young talents need to be working like Randy Orton, working slower. I'm not saying that. But they all should take some inspiration from him, because he does very little, but does a lot with very little. And that is something which is just so, so brilliant. And I mean, if you can make the little things mean a lot, then you can make the big things seem even bigger when you do them. And Randy Orton, he's the king of it. His match against Tama Tonga, it wasn't out of this world. It wasn't amazing, but it was good. It was solid. And I'm excited for the King of the Ring final. I'm excited for Gunther versus Randy Orton. My mouth is almost watering at the thought of it. I mean, I cannot wait for tomorrow. Overall, this episode of SmackDown had some great moments, such as AJ Styles and Nick Aldis' meeting backstage, Paul Heyman explaining why Tonga Loa wasn't there, and of course the King and Queen of the Ring semi-final matches. But at the same time, truthfully, you could have almost missed this episode of SmackDown and missed nothing that important of note. You could have just checked your phone and you wouldn't be missing out on a lot. There was a lot of filler, but hey, it looked sick. The setup looked sick in that stadium. I cannot wait for King and Queen of the Ring. But I am noticing a theme that when they do international shows, the SmackDown the night before, well, usually the crowd's brilliant for it, but the show itself is usually quite filler, and this followed the same route. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Allison Analysis. If you did, please like and comment down below. I'd love to know your thoughts on the episode. And I'll be back for King and Queen of the Ring tomorrow. I mean, it's going to be a good one. I'm excited. I will see you guys then. Peace!